Welcome to the Discover College Gymnastics podcast. If you're a gymnast or parent of a gymnast dreaming of competing in college, you're in the right place. Each week, join me as I talk to college gymnastics and acro and tumbling coaches from across the country. They'll reveal what they look for in a recruit, what it's like to be a college athlete, and they'll talk about what makes their programs unique. All of this is presented in short, easy-to-consume episodes because believe me, I know you're busy. If you're ready to jumpstart your college gymnastics dreams, you're in the right place. Let's get started. In this episode, I chat with Ellen Barker, head acrobatics and tumbling coach at Calvin University in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Coach Barker is Calvin's first acrobatics and tumbling coach as they enter their inaugural season in February of 2025. It was such a pleasure to speak with Coach Barker. She is such a supportive, kind coach, and her excitement for the upcoming season just radiates all throughout this interview, as you'll see. I even told her I was getting chills as she talked about the upcoming season just because she's so passionate about her team and what she does as a coach. We talk about what she looks for in an athlete, both on and off the mat. She says you don't have to be an elite gymnast or tumbler to be successful at acrobatics and tumbling. She also talks about qualities she looks for off the mat, such as how you conduct yourself during the recruiting process, self-motivation, and hard work. You are going to find Coach Barker so inspiring. So without further ado, here is my interview with Coach Ellen Barker of Calvin University. Okay, Coach Barker, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. So you are in your first season. This is Calvin's inaugural season in Acro and Tumbling. So exciting. You're going to start your meets here in a couple months, right?
Yes. February 14th will be our very first meet. And yeah, there are no words other than excitement. I keep telling the team like this, you have no idea what fun you're in for. That's just the aim we're going for. It's gonna be so much fun.
Awesome. So before we jump into the nitty-gritty of recruiting and all the things, tell us one thing that you're most excited about this upcoming season, besides fun.
Oh yeah, definitely fun. The thing that I'm most excited, honestly, it's opportunity. Just for the opportunity to show what we've been building here at Calvin, what Calvin University Acro and Tumbling is all about. I told my team that I want us to immediately just like have a presence. So it's almost an intangible thing. But I'm excited to just make their presence known in Acro and Tumbling, and especially in Division III as well. So it's going to be fun.
That's awesome. I just got goosebumps. I'm so excited for you.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's the plan. That's the goosebumps all day.
Okay, so let's jump into recruiting a little bit because I know that's on the minds of all parents and aspiring gymnasts and acro and tumbling. So I saw earlier in this year, I don't know if, I'm sure you've come along, but you've had 7 brand new recruits. Where are you at right now with roster size? And do you feel like you have a good amount of girls?
Yeah. So I've been a head coach now for, I think this is year 9. But yeah, it's changed even so much since I've been a head coach. Yeah, we're around 17 student athletes. And I feel that's a good amount, especially for a first year team. And I hope that in upcoming years, we want to be close to 22 for next year.
Okay.
So we have a lot of freshmen, yes, and that's
Of course.
very, very exciting. So we are a young team, and as we get more experience, but just the energy is so good that I just can't wait. So yeah, we have 17, and then yeah, that's kind of our goals. Sorry.
Okay. So 22 is kind of like your ideal. That's what you're trying to build to, 22, 24?
Yeah, for next year, for sure. 22 to 25 would be my ideal roster size for next year.
So I know you are brand new to the recruiting process at Calvin because this is the first time you've done it. So you might not have your cadence down, but how do you envision yourself recruiting as far as like when should girls start? Like I'm sure class of 2025, do you have girls that are signed for class of 2025, 2026?
Yes, two for each actually. So two for
Nice.
2025 so far, and then two for 2026 are verbally committed right now. So yeah, we are on a roll, which I'm really excited about. I mean, we all want to know who our team is and what, what puzzle pieces we have to work with. So I think most coaches would say that we like to know sooner than later. So starting early is never a bad thing. And starting early can be anything like going to a clinic, checking out the school. If there's a football game, go to a football game, see what that environment is like. It doesn't have to be necessarily formal recruiting, but kind of getting a good gathering information, maybe as a
Right.
sophomore or a junior, I think is probably I think it's a great start. And then starting that formal recruiting as a junior is great.
Awesome. And acro is so new, obviously.
Yes.
What type of athlete are you looking for? I mean, are you looking like where are you recruiting? Competitive cheer, gymnastics, dance, all of the above?
The answer is all of the above.
Okay.
And I've had athletes, I had an athlete at my previous institution who was in the literal circus. So we
Wow.
truly, it's where if you fit the need of a team, of a growing program, of an established program, if your athletic abilities and specialties fit the need of a team, you become a very recruitable athlete. So a lot of people count themselves out, and also people also hear acrobatics and tumbling and assume that you have to be a high level elite tumbler to be a part of it.
Right.
And that's just not true. There are, I think, one of our most famous athletes in the sport, Bailey Humphrey from Baylor, is like she is a specialist in acro and pyramid. She doesn't tumble, at least for
Right.
their team, and she is a rock star. So I think that anyone can find their place on an acro and tumbling team, just depending on what the needs of the team are and if they are able to
Right.
fulfill that. Absolutely.
So just kind of to piggyback on that, what kind of skills like on the mat, are there specific on the mat skills that you're looking for? A certain level of gymnast, a certain, like where are you going to find these girls?
Absolutely. So it's kind of different for every school. I will say for Calvin, we gymnast wise, we really are heavily recruiting level 8 and above.
Okay.
Um, and also excel athletes as well.
Okay.
Because even though they might not have those higher level excels, platinum, diamond, and sapphire now,
Yeah.
those are gymnast wise, that's really our core. And same with trampoline and tumbling. There's a couple local gyms that have that here as well. And those athletes can bring something to the table for sure. But as for specifics, yeah, level 8 plus and sapphire, diamond, and platinum for Excel all have great chances of getting recruited for an acro tumbling team. Again, some schools may not be looking for those excels, but here at Calvin, we are absolutely open to that.
That's awesome because as an Excel gymnast, you kind of think of, you don't really think of college being, you think
Hmm.
JO is your path, but
Yeah.
that's really good to know that there's an option and there's really
Yes.
good options out there. A lot of
Mhm.
options, more every day that are coming up.
Truly. I know this dates me, but I tell people this all the time in the recruiting process. I finished my gymnastics career because I just didn't want to do the 40 hours a week or whatever. Back then it was
Yeah.
called prep optional.
Yeah.
And so I was part of the very first cycle of that. And that's how I finished my gymnastics career. And I did acro and tumbling in division 2. So absolutely an option for people. And it's really what works for you in finding that same college fit.
That's so exciting. Okay, what
Mhm.
about off the mat skills that you look for? I know faith is very important to you,
Yeah.
work ethic, things like that that are not skill tangible.
Yeah. Calvin is a Christian faith-based institution. And so on that note, you don't need to be a Christian to come here, but if you're open to kind of faith or spirituality, if you can find a place at Calvin, if that is something that you're open to, that's something that I think is worth exploring because it is such a personal journey. And Calvin recognizes that, which is really cool. But yeah, faith is important to everyone here, and it is part of our daily life, which is really cool. And then off the mat, honestly, this kind of ties in your recruiting process and how the athlete goes through that tells me a lot about how they're going to be as a student and as an athlete. The athlete who I hear from once a year, maybe, or doesn't
Right.
show a lot of interest, like isn't connecting with us on social media or coming to our clinics, isn't an athlete, I go, huh, they might not be as engaged as the athlete that I want them to be. So the recruiting process is very telling, which is fun, but not so fun. I know everyone's really busy too.
Yeah.
Um, but I think off the mat, we do look for faith. Um, I personally look just for people who are passionate.
Mhm.
If you love what you're doing, you're going to put everything into it, and that's the kind of culture that we are building at Calvin. Um, are those kids who are excited to be there and just happy for the opportunity, and want to work really hard and want to win.
Yeah. You mentioned Instagram and clinics. Is that your main source of recruiting? Do you get out to, like, for instance, DP Nationals, Westerns, other cheer
Yeah.
clinics, things like that?
I absolutely go to recruiting combines if they're inviting me. First of all, I love to be invited. And I think everyone does. I go to a lot of early gymnastics meets. I know that might not be so popular for the gymnasts because they think, oh, well, like I'm not at my best.
Right.
Um, we see technique, we see potential. So you don't need to be at your best to be recruited all the time. Um, if you have a standout day, that might be really helpful for you. But
Yeah.
I think we can look beyond that. So I do go to gymnastics meets. I've gone to gymnastics on the Grand here. I went last year. I had a table all set up, so I was able to give information and talk to everybody, which was really cool. And I get that opportunity again in December of this year, so I'm so excited about that. Um, yeah, I've gone to gyms, but I do love when people come to our clinics.
Hmm.
Because especially if you're not familiar with acrobatics and tumbling, Division 3 has rules about tryouts. So we're not allowed to have people come and practice with us and like try it out for themselves on their own time. Clinics
Right.
are a great way to do that. To show, hey, I can do this, or this is something I do want to explore, maybe I don't. Um, Either way, you get some answers. So I think clinics, if you can go to one wherever, to just see if acrobatics and tumbling is an college avenue for you, I say absolutely do it.
Do you host any of those clinics at your facility, or are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all the time. And then there are a lot of school gymnastics gyms who will partner up with acro and tumbling coaches,
Okay.
who will do those at their gyms if space and time permit. But I love to host them here. Our facilities at Calvin are absolutely unreal. We have the largest Division 3 arena in the country, and that's where we'll practice, or
Wow.
that's where we'll compete. 5,000 people. It's real. Calvin game day is just unbelievable. So I cannot wait to have Acro in our arena. It's incredible.
That is awesome. And plus, the girls get to go on campus, get a feel
Yes.
of just everything.
Like those
Love that.
clinics and those visit days, like I have a whole recruiting checklist that knocks off like 4 or 5 boxes at least. So
Very cool.
it's very
Very cool.
helpful.
So we talked a little bit about your school, but let's talk a little bit about a little bit more about the school. People might not be familiar with Calvin. Tell us.
Mhm.
I know you're very biased, but tell
Of
us
course.
what awesome things we need to know about your school.
Yeah, so Calvin is like smaller private Christian university located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's the second largest city in Michigan, but it is also very safe. There's a lot of things to do here. Calvin University is around 3,600 students, and the student to professor ratio is around 12 to 1. So it's if you're really looking for a one-on-one attention in the classroom where people know your name and we say, hey, professor, we're out, we're going to Buffalo for our meet. Wish us luck. They're going to know your name. They're going to be ready
That's
to
awesome.
go. So I really enjoy that smaller campus experience, where you get a lot of that attention, but it's big enough where you're not going to see the same people every day.
Yeah.
And there's so a lot of diversity and things to do. And that's something that I really love about Calvin as well.
Awesome. So, in the season that's coming up, can you give us an idea of what your typical week is like? Practice, meet schedule, lifting, things like
For
that.
sure. I love one thing again for athletes who are for student athletes who are looking to have a um, work-life balance, but student athlete life balance. Um, I think Division 3 does an excellent job. For our preseason, yeah, it's shorter, but and we have a little bit less time to prepare than everybody else. But I actually think that's what makes us so great. We are able to compete with Division 1 and 2 schools, and we have less time, but our student athletes are so passionate about what they do that they make it happen. Um, and yeah, sorry, I'm trying to figure out what reminding me of the question.
Oh,
Um,
just like how many, what about like how many hours do you
oh,
practice a
yeah,
day?
day in the
Like
life.
just, yeah, day in life.
Day in the life, absolutely. So yeah, a typical week. So in our preseason, like I said, we have a shorter preseason that equates to around 20 to 24 practices. So we go, every coach kind of sets it up differently. So this year we'll probably start do it a little different next year, where we kind of go twice a week, and have some
Okay.
open gyms and weight time, 3 hours a day, and then just kind of self-motivated athletes are another thing that I really look for, especially in Division 3, because you have to be doing some things on your own,
Right.
in the preseason, especially. So typical preseason week is for us is right now we're going 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 3:30 to 6:30. And weights are included in that as well. We have practice and then we do weights for a half hour right after. So that is preseason. And then in regular season, starting January 15th for us, we'll go 5 days a week, around 2 to 3 hours a day for that as well.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of girls coming off the junior
Mhm.
Olympics track would think this is normal. You know, it's like,
Oh,
or
I
a
know.
lot less.
When I tell them, everyone asks me, like what's it going to be like? I'm like, way less than you're doing now. You're gonna
Yeah.
be just fine. Like,
Yeah.
this is not so bad. But yeah, it is less. But with the added workload, and again, I think Division 3 does an excellent job of giving that transition to from high school to college. It's a little less severe. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it
let's
doesn't
talk a little.
lack competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I know Division 3 is always very heavily academic focused, and so the
Mhm.
girls are coming, they're used to balancing academics and cheer, dance, or whatever they're doing, or gymnastics.
Yeah.
What support, but college can be, you're away from home, college can be a whole different animal. So, what support
Totally.
systems do you guys have in place to support your many freshmen that you have on your team right now?
Yeah, I love the support. One thing at Calvin that we emphasize a lot is community. And especially, so I'll talk about for all of our every single student
Yeah,
athlete that comes into Calvin. Counseling services are included in tuition. They are free which makes them free for everybody who needs support with a counselor on campus. So especially if you're having a rough time with that transition from high school to college, that is something that we work with heavily. Same with student services, available to everyone, and um, they're very good at supporting our student athletes and all of our students in general.
cool.
But I love that our counseling services are so like heavily promoted and open, and that is something that you want to do. Um,
Right.
yeah. And I something that I really also love about Calvin is our emphasis on diversity. For our incoming students of color, and I love this. We have a program called Entrada, which takes place in the summer before they arrive on campus for their freshman year. Basically, I think it's a 1 month course, where you take a class, and this is for all students of color. And by taking this course, and these classes, they get a couple classes out of the way already. So they have a couple credits coming
Nice.
in. And they will get an additional, I think, minimum $4,000 scholarship for completing that program. Um, I've had a couple of my incoming freshmen be a part of that. And just the sense of community that like she's like, some of these people are going to be my friends forever.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not been given this program. And I think that's something super unique about Calvin. And I absolutely love that commitment to diversity.
It's a win-win. You get your classes taken care of and you get to bond with these people. It's like the first month in the dorms or something, but you're doing it before
Big
anyone
time.
else. Yeah, that's awesome.
And without
Okay,
the other stresses. Yeah, it's a
right.
very cool program.
That's really cool. Okay, so I heard you mention the T word, tuition, and
Yes.
Calvin is not the cheapest school on the block. And you
Mhm.
don't have to give me hard, fast numbers, but you're a
Yeah.
Division III school. I know you can't offer athletic scholarships and whatnot, but give me an example of, maybe what kind of financial aid or scholarships are available to the girls.
Absolutely. So yeah, the sticker price is always very scary. And I always assure families that 100% of student athletes or everyone, 100% of students at Calvin will have some kind of scholarship. So that is something not to fear. No one pays the sticker price.
Yeah.
So it says, I think it might be 52,000 or something like that. Um, Similar to that. No one pays that sticker price. If you come and visit Calvin, you get a $2,000 scholarship every single year,
Very cool.
up to 5 years. So even if it's only 2,000, which again, everyone will get more than that. For academics are super important, and at Calvin we really reward that. Um, Everyone with a 3.8 GPA or higher is guaranteed $22,000 or more every single year to
Wow.
Calvin. And that's stackable with other FAFSA or uh, any other.
Grants or whatnot. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So just for those grades alone, you're guaranteed. It's called the Calvin Promise. And so we really take care of that. And then there's tiers as well. So if you have a 3.5 GPA, you might get $18,000.
Okay.
Or we like to have our recruits have a 3.0 or higher.
Hmm.
Calvin's very rigorous in that standard as well. And we we like to keep our GPAs higher. So
Right, right. Okay, so let's talk about you and your overall coaching style and what kind of culture you're trying to build with this brand new team.
yeah, culture is always so elusive. Everybody talks about it, but it's how do we do it? And
Yeah,
culture, we had a whole team meeting that culture is what we do, what we think, what we say, and it becomes this intangible thing. And that's again what we talked about of how I want my team to have that presence. We work on that every day, and it's how we talk to each other is how we will end up projecting to our opponent. And by having that unity is so important. So yes, it is very an elusive thing as culture, but we kind of have our core values of commitment, joy, love, and just being there for each other. That kind
I
of
love that.
comes along with it. So my coaching style, I think kind of reflects that culture. I hope that's the plan. But I tend to be a very collaborative coach. Um, I like to know what you're thinking, what you're feeling. I like to, I'm not a sit here and I really, really, really care about the individual. If my individuals are happy, my team should be happy. Um, and I care for everyone's individual kind of quirks and and how it's my job to make that puzzle piece work.
Yeah.
Um, and so I like to say I'm a very collaborative coach, very compliment sandwich kind of coach.
Yes.
And I think I could be a little bit more direct in some ways. And we just took our rise or our like tap test. And I was reading that through myself. And so I was always looking for ways to improve.
Right.
And I think that's probably something that reflects on our team as well. So constantly changing, and I've changed a lot over the last 9 years on just how I've done things. So um, constantly evolving for the better and very collaborative approach.
Awesome. And I can tell that you just exude positivity too. I was reading some interviews from your
Oh,
recruits, and they had nothing but amazing things to say. I think one girl said something like, I didn't even know I wanted to do athletics in college, and you kind of pushed her along. So I can definitely tell it's a very positive environment.
I love these kids. I it's hard to put your career sometimes in the hands of 17-year-olds
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
in recruiting. But they're just so awesome. And I think so many young women don't realize that they're good enough for this opportunity. And they are. And sometimes half of my job is just being the hype man of, no, you can do this and you can do it well. And I'm going to show you why. And so I think that's really fun. And just seeing them grow and become better humans is just the best.
That's so
It's so
cool.
worth
And
it.
are you doing this all alone? Do you have help? Is there a trainer? Do you have an assistant coach?
Oh yeah. So our athletic trainer Jillian is amazing. She worked at the Grand Rapids Ballet, and was a little bit of a dancer herself. So she kind of understands our types of injuries, which is really cool. She's been a fantastic support system for our student athletes on the team. And I'm working with one of my former student athletes, Maya, who is helping me out as an assistant coach.
Awesome. So you have help.
Yes, yeah. Very
Well,
grateful for it too.
yeah, it's a big job.
It
Well,
is.
you have been so generous with your time. I really appreciate it. Before we start to say goodbye, could you give us one piece of advice that you could give potential recruits or kids wanting to pursue college athletics? One piece of advice.
Yes. Okay. My piece of advice would be one, to be open. If somebody reaches out to you, think, oh, they must see something in me. Um, Entertain it a little bit. Do your own research. So be open to an opportunity that might come your way, regardless of division, of location, of you never know what's going to be your fit. So one, being open, and two, being honest. And that means being honest with yourself and with the coach who might be giving you that opportunity. Um, there's nothing worse than being, oh, you're my number one school. You're my number one school. It's like, are
Right.
you? You're go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would much rather be like, hey, I've researched it, I've come to a clinic, I've visited. This place might just not be for me. I respect that way more than I'm
Absolutely.
not even going to give you a shot. It's like, no, like, let me show you what we have to offer. Because I think I made that mistake in my recruiting process as well. I just was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I think I really closed a lot of doors. And if I was 17, I would do it all over again, knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the short version is open and honest.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. I
Thank
love that I
you.
learned so much about Calvin. This is
Oh,
great.
good. I'm so glad. It's been great to get to know you. I so appreciate this, again, opportunity to talk about Calvin and acrobatics and tumbling, two things that I love.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Discover College Gymnastics. For the full episode transcript, show notes for the episode, and links to all of our social media, visit our website at discovercollegegymnastics.com. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast player so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time as we sit down with another coach for an inside look at the world of college gymnastics.